The train did not slow down. It screamed across the frozen tracks like something alive, something angry, its iron body rather the weight of hundreds of human beings packed inside in cattle cars. Inside one of those cars, a boy pressed his face against a narrow crack between the boards. His name was Daniel Weiss. He was 12 years old, and he was about to enter a place no child should ever see. The air inside the wagon was thick, heavy with sweat, fear, and something worse. Something that smelled like despair itself. People stood shoulder to shoulder, unable to sit, unable to move. Some had stopped speaking hours ago. Others whispered prayers. Daniel clutched his mother's hand tightly. "Where are we going?" he asked, his voice trembling. His mother didn't answer immediately. She looked down at him, her face pale, eyes hollow from days without sleep. "A place where we must stay strong," she finally said. Daniel didn't understand what that meant, but he nodded anyway, because that's what children do when they're afraid. 3 days earlier, they had been in their home, a small apartment in Krakow. There had been bread on the table, warmth, a normal life. Then the soldiers came, boots on the stairs. Vowed. Final, out, all of you! They didn't give explanations. They never did. Now the train slowed, a terrible silence through the wagon, then metal screeching. The train stopped. For a moment no one moved. Then the doors were thrown open, light flooded in, and with it, shouting, "Raus! Schnell! Out! Faster!" German voices, harsh, cold. Daniel's heart pounded violently. He jumped down from the wagon, landing on frozen ground. Snow crunched under his feet. He looked around. Barbed wire, watchtowers, guards with rifles, dogs barking, smoke rising in the distance. Something was burning, but it didn't smell like wood. "Stay close," his mother whispered. Daniel nodded, gripping her hand harder than ever. A line of prisoners was being formed. Men on one side, women and children on the other. A tall officer stood ahead, pointing left, then right, making decisions in seconds. Life or death. But no one knew it yet. When it was Daniel's turn, the officer glanced at him briefly. "Age? 12, his mother answered quickly. The officer's eyes narrowed. He looked at Daniel again, then pointed right. Daniel stayed with his mother. For now, they were marched through iron gates. Above them, a sign read words Daniel didn't understand, but the tone of everything around him told him enough. This was not a place people came back from. In the camp, time changed. It didn't move normally anymore. It stretched, twisted, broke. Days felt like weeks, and nights felt endless. Daniel was given a number, no longer a name. Remember it, a prisoner whispered to him. If you forget, you disappear. Daniel repeated it over and over in his head like a prayer. The barracks were overcrowded. Wooden bunks stacked 3 levels high. No blankets, barely any food, just thin soup, if you were lucky. Hunger became a constant companion, a quiet, gnawing pain that never left. On his 3rd day, Daniel met Jakob. Jakob was older, maybe 16. His face was thin, his eyes sharp. "You're new," Jakob said. Daniel nodded. "Stay close to me," Jakob added quietly. "And listen, don't ask questions. Just survive." Jakob taught him things no child should ever need to learn. How to hide a piece of bread, how to avoid guards' attention, how to stand during roll call without collapsing, how to look invisible. "Why are they doing this?" Daniel asked one night. Jakob didn't answer immediately. He stared at the ceiling, then finally said, "Because they can." One evening, Daniel noticed the smoke again. Thicker this time. Darker. He turned to Jakob. "What is that?" Jacob's face froze. "Don't ask," he said quickly. "But I said don't ask." Daniel didn't speak again. But that night, he couldn't sleep, because deep inside, he already knew. Days turned into weeks. Daniel grew thinner, weaker, but something inside him refused to break. Hope, a small, fragile flame, but still alive. One freezing morning, everything changed. The guards came earlier than usual. shouting, aggressive. Different. Line up. All of you. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Daniel stood beside Jakob, shivering. What's happening? He whispered. Jakob didn't answer. His jaw was clenched, his eyes scanning the guards. Then Daniel saw it. A list. A long list in the officer's hands. Names. Or rather, numbers. The officer began calling them, one by one. Each number echoed like a death sentence. Men stepped forward, some crying, some silent, some already gone inside. Then, Daniel heard it. His number. Everything stopped. The world faded. The cold disappeared. The noise vanished. Only one thing remained. That number. His number. He looked at Jakob. Jakob looked back. For the first time, Daniel saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. Don't move, Jakob whispered. But the guard shouted again. The number, louder, angrier. Daniel took a step forward, his legs shaking, his heart pounding so hard he thought it would explode. This was it. He didn't know what it was, but he knew it was not good. As he stepped out of the line, a hand grabbed his arm, hard, sudden, desperate. It was Jakob. Run, Jakob whispered. Daniel froze. What? Run. And in that moment, Daniel had to make a choice. Or run. He looked at the guards, at the list, at the smoke rising in the distance, then back at Jakob. And he ran. He ran. His feet slammed against the frozen ground, slipping slightly on patches of ice as the world behind him exploded into noise. Halt! The shout cracked through the air like a gunshot. Dogs barked wildly. Boots thundered. But Daniel didn't turn around. He couldn't, because something deep inside him, stronger than fear, stronger than hunger, stronger than everything, was screaming one word. Run. The camp blurred around him. Barracks, fences, watchtowers, all passing like shadows. He didn't know where he was going. Only that stopping meant something worse than death. A gunshot rang out, close, too close. The sound tore through his ears. Daniel ducked instinctively, stumbling forward and crashing into the ground. Pain shot through his hands as they scraped across ice and dirt. For a second, he couldn't breathe. He thought he had been hit, but he wasn't. Not yet. Get up! Jacob's voice echoed in his head. Or maybe it wasn't real. Maybe it was just memory. But it didn't matter. Daniel pushed himself up and kept running. Ahead of him, a gap, small, between two barracks, dark, narrow. He didn't hesitate. He dove into it. The space was tight, barely wide enough for a child. The smell was unbearable, rot, damp wood, something dead. Daniel pressed himself against the wall, pulling his knees to his chest, trying to make himself smaller, invisible. Footsteps rushed past outside, voices shouting, German, angry, confused. Where did he go? He was just here. Search everywhere! Daniel held his breath. His chest burned. His lungs screamed, but didn't move. Not even a little. A dog barked nearby. Closer, closer. Daniel's heart pounded so loudly he was sure they could hear it. The barking stopped. Silence. Then sniffing. Right outside the gap. Daniel closed his eyes. This was it. This was how it ended. Not with a scream. Not with a fight. But hiding in the dark like a frightened animal. The dog growled. Dangerous. A guard's voice followed. Find him. The dog stepped closer. One more step, and it would see him. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the opposite side of the camp. Metal falling. Voices shouting again. Different direction. The dog's attention snapped away. It barked loudly and ran toward the noise. The guard followed. Silence returned. Daniel didn't move, not for a long time. Minutes. Maybe longer. Time didn't exist anymore. Finally, he opened his eyes, still alive. Slowly, carefully, he crawled out of the gap. His legs trembled violently. His entire body felt weak, empty. He looked around. The camp seemed distracted. Guards running, shouting. Something was happening. Something bigger than him. Then he saw it. Smoke, thicker than before. And flames. One of the storage buildings near the edge of the camp was burning. Daniel didn't understand how or why, but he understood one thing. This was his chance. He moved along the shadows, keeping low, copying everything Jakob had taught him. Don't be seen, don't be heard, don't exist. Every step felt like walking on a knife's edge. One mistake, and it was over. He reached the outer fence. Barbed wire stretched endlessly in both directions. Tall, deadly, impossible. Daniel's heart sank. There was no way out. Then, movement. To his left, a figure, thin, fast, moving toward him. Daniel froze. The figure stepped into the light. Jakob. You're alive, Jakob whispered, breathless. Daniel's eyes widened. I thought, no time, Jakob cut him off. Listen carefully. Jakob pointed toward a section of the fence, near the burning building, partially hidden by smoke. There's a weak spot, he said. The fire damaged it. Daniel stared. Hope flickered again, that fragile flame. But it won't last, Jakob continued. The guards will fix it or shoot anyone who tries. Daniel swallowed hard. You have to go now. What about you? Daniel asked. Jakob hesitated, just for a second, but Daniel saw it. I'll follow, Jakob said. But something in his voice didn't sound true. No, Daniel said quietly. Jakob grabbed his shoulders. Listen to me, you run. You don't look back. You don't stop, no matter what you hear. Do you understand? Daniel's eyes filled with tears. I don't want to go alone. Jacob's grip tightened. You're not alone, he said. You carry everyone with you. For a moment, everything stopped again. Then, a shout, guards approaching. Go! Jakob pushed him. Daniel ran. The smoke burned his eyes. His lungs screamed with every breath. The heat from the fire hit his face like a wall. But he kept going. The fence was right there. Broken, a small opening, barely enough. Daniel dropped to the ground and crawled toward it. The barbed wire tore at his clothes, scratched his skin, but he didn't stop. Halfway through, a gunshot. Daniel froze. Then another. He turned his head against Jacob's orders, and what he saw would stay with him forever. Jakob, standing between him and the guards. Not running, not hiding, blocking them. Hey! Jakob shouted. The guards aimed. Daniel's heart shattered. No! He screamed. Jakob didn't look back. He just stood there. And then, the gunshots came. Daniel squeezed his eyes shut, pulled himself through the wire, and fell hard onto the other side. Freedom. But it didn't feel like it, because behind him, everything was still burning, and Daniel forced himself up. His body screamed in pain. His mind screamed louder, but he remembered, don't stop. So he ran, into the forest, into the unknown, alone, or at least, that's what he thought, because deep in the trees, someone was watching him. The forest swallowed him whole. Dark trees stretched endlessly in every direction, their branches like skeletal hands clawing at the gray sky. The deeper Daniel ran, the quieter the world became, until the camp, the shouting, the gunshots, all faded into a distant nightmare. But inside him, it was louder than ever. His lungs burned. His legs felt like they would beneath him at any second. Still, he didn't stop. Twigs snapped under his feet. Cold air cut through his thin clothes like knives. Every breath hurt. Every step hurt more. But fear pushed him forward. After what felt like hours, Daniel finally slowed, then stopped. Silence. Not the kind of silence that feels peaceful. No, this silence was different. Heavy. Watching. Daniel turned slowly, scanning the trees. Nothing. But he felt it, that feeling, the one that crawls under your skin. You're not alone. Hello, he whispered. His voice sounded small, weak, lost. No answer. Daniel took a step back, then another. A branch cracked behind him. He spun around. Nothing. His heart pounded wildly again. Faster than before. Please, he said quietly. I don't want trouble. A shadow moved between the trees. Quick, gone in an instant. Daniel's breath caught. Then a voice, low, sharp. Stop moving. Daniel froze. From behind a thick tree trunk, a figure emerged. A man, tall, bearded, dressed in worn, dark clothing, a rifle in his hands, his eyes locked onto Daniel. Cold, careful, suspicious. "Who are you?" the man asked. Daniel swallowed hard. I ran from the camp." The man didn't lower the rifle. "They all say that," he replied. "I'm telling the truth," Daniel insisted, his voice shaking. "Please, I'm just a kid." The man studied him, from head to toe, the torn clothes, the bleeding scratches, the hollow face. Something in his expression changed, just slightly. "How did you get out?" he asked. Daniel hesitated. I escaped. That camp is impossible to escape." Daniel looked down. "I didn't do it alone." The man narrowed his eyes. "Who helped you?" Daniel's throat tightened. "A boy," he said softly. "Jakob." Silence. The wind moved through the trees, cold, whispering. "Is he with you?" the man asked. Daniel shook his head. "No." The man looked at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, he lowered the rifle. "Follow me." Daniel blinked. "What?" "If you stay here, you die," the man said bluntly. "Cold, hunger, or worse." Daniel didn't argue. He followed. They walked for what felt like forever, through dense forest, over frozen ground, past fallen trees and hidden paths. The man never spoke again, and Daniel didn't ask, until lights appeared, faint, hidden, deep in the woods. Daniel's eyes widened. A camp, but not like the other one. No fences, no guards, no smoke, just people. Dozens of them. Women, even children, all hidden among the trees. "Who are they?" Daniel whispered. The man finally answered. "People who refuse to disappear." They entered the camp. Eyes turned toward Daniel, suspicious, curious, tired. A woman approached. Her face was stern but not unkind. "Another one?" she asked. The man nodded. "From the camp." Murmurs spread. The woman looked at Daniel. "You're safe here," she said. Safe. The word felt strange, unreal. Daniel didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. That night, for the first time in weeks, Daniel ate real food. Not much, but enough. Warm soup, bread. His hands trembled as he held it, not from fear, from disbelief. Later, he sat by a small fire, wrapped in a thin blanket. The man who found him sat across from him. "My name is Marek," he said. Daniel nodded. "I'm Daniel." Marek studied him. "You shouldn't have survived," he said bluntly. Daniel looked into the fire. "I didn't," he whispered. Marek didn't respond. Days passed. Daniel stayed with them. The group was small, hidden, careful. They moved often, never staying in one place too long, always watching, always listening. Daniel learned quickly how to stay quiet, how to move without leaving tracks, how to survive outside the camp. But inside, he was still there, still hearing the gunshots, still seeing Jakob. Every night, over and over again. One evening, everything changed, again. Marek returned from scouting, faster than usual, tense. "Soldiers," he said. The camp went silent instantly. "Close?" the woman asked. "Too close." Panic began to rise. "We move," Marek ordered. "Now." People grabbed what little they had, packed quickly. Silently, Daniel stood frozen. "Come on," Marek snapped. They moved into the forest, fast, careful, but something was wrong. Too quiet, too easy. Marek stopped suddenly, his hand raised. Everyone froze. Then, a sound. Click, metal. From all directions. Daniel's heart stopped. They weren't being chased. They were being waited for. Figures emerged from the trees. Soldiers. Surrounding them, guns raised. No escape. No way out. Daniel looked at Marek. For the first time, He saw something he hadn't seen before. Not fear. Not panic. Something worse. Realization. "It's a trap," Marek whispered. A soldier stepped forward, smiling. "Well," he said slowly, "look what we found." Daniel's breath caught. Not again. Not this. Not after everything. And then, from behind the soldiers, another figure appeared, walking slowly, calmly, confidently. Daniel's eyes widened, because he recognized that face. Impossible. It couldn't be. But it was a boy, standing beside the soldiers, looking straight at him. Daniel couldn't breathe. The world around him blurred, sound fading into a dull echo as his eyes locked onto the boy standing beside the soldiers. It wasn't possible. But it was. "Jakob," Daniel whispered. The name barely left his lips. The boy standing there looked exactly like him. Same height, same thin face, same sharp eyes, but something was different. Jakob's eyes were empty, not scared, not angry, not alive. Empty. "Step forward," one of the soldiers ordered. No one moved. Marek's hand slowly tightened into a fist. The woman beside him whispered something under her breath. Others trembled, some already crying silently. Daniel didn't hear any of it. He could only see Jakob. "You're alive," Daniel said, his voice breaking. Jakob tilted his head slightly, studying him. Then he smiled, not the warm, protective smile Daniel remembered. Something else, something cold. "You shouldn't have run," Jakob said. Daniel felt something inside him shatter. "What?" he whispered. The soldier next to Jakob chuckled. "Your friend helped us," he said, very cooperative. Daniel's heart pounded wildly. "No," he said, shaking his head. "No, that's not true." Jakob stepped forward. "It is," he said calmly. Silence fell over the group. Heavy, crushing. Marek's voice cut through it. "You led them here?" he asked, his tone low and dangerous. Jakob didn't even look at him. "I did what I had to do." "What you had to do?" Marek repeated. Jakob's eyes flicked briefly toward him. "You think hiding in the woods changes anything?" he said. "You think you can win?" The words hit harder than any weapon. Daniel stepped forward. "You told me to run," he said. "You saved me." Jakob's expression didn't change. "I saved myself," he replied. Daniel's chest tightened. "No, you wouldn't." "Enough," the soldier interrupted. He raised his weapon slightly. "This is over." The group was forced to their knees. Cold earth pressed against Daniel's legs. His hands trembled. His vision blurred with tears. This couldn't be real. Not after everything. Not after escaping. Not after Jakob. Daniel looked at him again, searching, desperate, for something, anything, a sign, a crack. But Jakob just stood there, watching, like a stranger. "Last chance," the soldier said, pacing slowly in front of them. "Anyone who gives us useful information might live." Silence. No one spoke. No one moved. The soldier sighed. "Very well." He lifted his gun. Daniel closed his eyes. This was it, again. A shot rang out. Daniel flinched, but the pain never came. Instead, a scream. Not his. Daniel's eyes snapped open. Chaos. Sudden. Violent. One of the soldiers dropped to the ground, blood spreading beneath him. Another shot. Then another. From the trees. "Ambush!" someone shouted. Gunfire exploded in every direction. The forest came alive. Figures emerged from the shadows. Fast. Precise. Resistance fighters. Real ones. Not hiding. Not running. Fighting. Marek moved instantly, grabbing Daniel, pulling him down. "Stay low!" he shouted. Bullets tore through the air. Branches snapped. People screamed. Daniel's ears rang. His body froze. Then he saw Jakob, standing in the middle of it all, not moving, just watching. A soldier grabbed him, shouting something, pulling him back. Jakob resisted. For a second, just a second, his eyes met Daniel's, and this time, there was something there. Not empty, not cold. Something else. Regret. Then a blast. Loud. Deafening. The ground shook. Smoke filled the air. Daniel was thrown backward. His head slammed against something hard. Darkness flickered at the edge of his vision. Everything slowed. Sounds faded. Until nothing. When Daniel opened his eyes again, it was quiet. Too quiet. The battle was over. Bodies lay scattered across the ground, some moving, most not. Smoke drifted between the trees. Daniel pushed himself up slowly, his head spinning. "Merrick?" he called weakly. No answer. Panic rose instantly. He stood, stumbling, searching. Then a hand grabbed his arm. Daniel turned. Merrick. Alive. "Come," Merrick said quickly. "We don't have time." "What happened?" Daniel asked. "Help came," Merrick replied. "But more will follow." Daniel nodded, still disoriented. Then he remembered Jakob. "Where is he?" Daniel asked. Merrick's expression hardened. "Gone." Daniel's heart dropped. "No, I saw him. He was with them," Merrick said sharply. "That's all that matters." Daniel shook his head. "No, something's wrong." Merrick grabbed his shoulders. "Listen to me," he said. "In war, people change. They break. They survive however they can." Daniel looked down. "Even if it means betraying everyone?" Merrick didn't answer. "Because he didn't need to." They began to move again, deeper into the forest. But Daniel couldn't stop thinking about Jacob's eyes. That last moment, that look, it didn't match. It didn't make sense. And deep inside, that small flame of hope, it refused to die. Because maybe, just maybe, Jakob wasn't the enemy. Far behind them, hidden among the smoke and fallen trees, Jakob lay on the ground, breathing, barely, blood staining his side. A soldier approached him slowly. "You did well," the soldier said. Jakob didn't respond. His eyes were fixed on the forest, on the direction Daniel had gone. "You helped us find them," the soldier continued. "You'll be rewarded." Jakob finally spoke. Weak, broken. "I didn't help you." The soldier frowned. Jacob's lips trembled slightly. "I led you away from him." The soldier's expression darkened. "What?" But it was too late. Jakob smiled faintly, and then closed his eyes. The snow began to fall again. Soft at first, almost peaceful, Daniel walked in silence. Step after step, deeper into the forest. Behind him, everything he had known was gone. Again, the camp, the escape, the people, the ambush, and Jakob. Always Jakob. "Keep moving," Merrick said quietly. Daniel nodded, but his mind wasn't there. It was stuck on that moment. Those eyes, that look. "I didn't help you." The words echoed in his head, over and over. Night fell quickly. The group, what was left of it, found shelter inside an abandoned cabin, broken windows, cold air creeping in, bare wooden floor. But it was something. They lit a small fire. Careful, hidden, Daniel sat in the corner, arms wrapped around himself. He wasn't cold, not really. He was empty. Merrick watched him for a long time. Then finally, he walked over. "You're thinking about him," Merrick said. Daniel didn't look up. "He wasn't what you think," Daniel whispered. Merrick sighed. "In war, we don't get to decide what people become." Daniel shook his head. "No, you didn't see him," he said. At the end, something changed. Merrick didn't respond immediately. Instead, he reached into his coat, pulled something out. A small object. He handed it to Daniel. Daniel looked down. A piece of cloth. Dirty. Torn. Daniel frowned. "What is this?" "Found it after the fight," Merrick said. Daniel turned it over and froze. A number, stitched into the fabric. Familiar. Too familiar. His breath caught. "It's his," Daniel whispered. "Jacob's number." Merrick nodded. "There was more," he said quietly. Daniel looked up. What do you mean? Marek hesitated. Then he spoke. He wasn't captured the way you think. Silence. Daniel's heart began to race again. What are you saying? Marek leaned closer. I saw it, he said. Before the ambush, before you noticed him. Daniel's eyes widened. He walked into their camp. Everything stopped. No, Daniel said. Yes, Marek continued. Alone. No chains. No guards. Daniel shook his head violently. That's impossible. Marek's voice hardened. He chose to go there. The words hit like a punch. Daniel stood suddenly. No. You're wrong. His voice echoed in the cabin. People turned, watched. But Daniel didn't care. You didn't know him, he shouted. He saved me. Marek stood as well. And maybe that's exactly why he did it. Silence. Heavy. Confusing. What do you mean? Daniel asked, his voice smaller now. Marek looked at him carefully. Maybe he made a deal. Daniel's chest tightened. A deal, Marek nodded. One life for another. Daniel couldn't breathe. No. He leads them away from you, Marek said. Gives them something valuable, information, people, in exchange for your escape. Daniel stepped back. The room spun. No, he wouldn't. Marek didn't push further, because he didn't need to. The truth was already there, waiting. That night Daniel didn't sleep. He stared into the fire, watching the flames dance, seeing faces inside them. Jakob, smiling, then standing with the soldiers, then bleeding. Then that last look. Not empty, never empty. Morning came slowly. Gray sky, cold air. The group prepared to move again. But something had changed. Not outside. Inside Daniel, the confusion, the pain, the anger, it was still there. But now, there was something else. Understanding, not complete, not clear, but growing. They moved again, through the forest. But this time, they weren't alone. More fighters joined them. Real resistance, organized, armed. Daniel listened. Whispers, plans, names of places, and one word, repeated again and again. Liberation. Days passed. Daniel became stronger, faster, harder. The boy who arrived in the camp was gone. Something else had taken his place. One evening, Marek approached him. We're going back, he said. Daniel looked up. Back, Marek nodded. To the camp. Daniel's heart stopped. No. Yes, Marek said. Not to stay, to end it. Daniel's breath grew shallow. You mean, attack it? Marek's eyes were cold. Destroy it. Silence. The fire crackled softly. Daniel looked into it. The flames reflected in his eyes, the same flames he saw before. The same smoke, the same place. I'm coming, Daniel said. Marek stared at him. You're a child. Daniel shook his head slowly. No, he said, not anymore. Marek studied him for a long moment. Then, he nodded. That night, Daniel stood at the edge of the forest, looking out. Far in the distance, he could see it. The camp. Smoke rising into the sky, still burning, still alive, but not for long. Daniel clenched his fists. Jakob, he whispered. I understand now. Behind him, dozens of fighters prepared, weapons loaded, plans ready. Ahead of him, the place where everything began, the place where everything would end. And somewhere inside that camp, there were still people waiting to be saved, or to disappear. Daniel took a step forward. No hesitation, only one thought. This time, he wasn't running. The night was silent, too silent. Daniel lay flat against the cold ground, his eyes fixed on the camp in the distance. The same camp, the same fences, the same smoke rising into the sky like a scar that refused to heal. But tonight, it looked different, not untouchable, not unstoppable, vulnerable. Around him, shadows moved, dozens of fighters, quiet, focused. Marek crawled beside him. Remember, he whispered, we go in fast. We hit hard. We get people out. Daniel nodded. His heart was beating fast, but not like before, not fear. Something else. Purpose. A signal passed silently through the group. Hands raised. Eyes locked. 3, 2, 1. The world exploded. Gunfire tore through the silence. Shouts, explosions, chaos. The attack had begun. Daniel ran. Not away, but toward it. The outer fence was hit first. Explosives ripped through the barbed wire. Metal screamed, collapsed. A path opened. Fighters rushed in. Guards shouted in panic. Some fired wildly. Others ran. They weren't ready. Not for this. Daniel followed Merrick through the breach. The camp hit him all at once. The smell, cold, the memories, everything came rushing back. For a second, he froze. Then, a scream snapped him back. A prisoner, beaten, dragging himself across the ground. Daniel ran to him. "It's okay," he said quickly. "We're here. You're getting out." The man stared at him, confused, broken. "Run," Daniel said. And the man did. Everywhere, doors were being broken open. Chains cut. People freed. Some cried. Some didn't react at all. Too far gone. But they moved, because something had changed. Hope had entered the camp. Daniel ran through the barracks, his eyes searching, not just for survivors, for something else. Someone else. "Daniel," Merrick's voice echoed. "Stay focused." Daniel nodded, but kept moving. He couldn't stop. Not yet. Then he saw it. The place. The yard. Where everything had changed. Where the list was read. Where he ran. Daniel slowed, his breath caught, and then movement. Near one of the buildings. A figure. Familiar. Impossible. "Jakob," Daniel whispered. The figure turned slowly, and there he was. Alive. But barely. Leaning against the wall. Blood on his side. Face pale. Eyes tired, but alive. Daniel ran to him. "You're here," he said, his voice breaking. Jakob smiled faintly. "Took you long enough." Daniel dropped to his knees beside him. I thought you were." "Dead?" Jakob said softly. Daniel nodded. Jakob let out a weak breath. "Not yet." Gunfire echoed around them. Closer now. "We have to go," Daniel said quickly. "Now!" Jakob shook his head slightly. "I can't." Daniel's heart dropped. "Yes, you can," he insisted. "I'll help you." Jakob grabbed his arm, weak, but firm. "Listen to me," he said. Daniel froze. "I made them believe I was one of them," Jakob continued. "That I broke, that I chose them." Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "But you didn't," Jakob smiled. "No, I stayed," Jakob said, his voice barely above a whisper. "To learn, to watch, to wait." Daniel stared at him. "For this?" he asked. Jakob nodded slightly. "For this." Another explosion shook the ground. Time was running out. "Come on," Daniel said again. "We're leaving together." Jakob looked at him, long, carefully. Then he shook his head. "There's something else." Daniel's chest tightened. "What?" Jacob's eyes shifted toward a building nearby. "The control room," he said. "They have records, names, transports, everything." Daniel followed his gaze. "If it burns," Jakob continued, "no one will ever know what happened here." Silence. Daniel understood. "We have to get it," Jakob said. Daniel hesitated. Mark's voice echoed in his head. "We get people out." But Jacob's voice, "If we don't, they erase everything." Daniel looked back at him. "What do we do?" Jakob smiled faintly. "We finish this." Moments later, they moved. Slow, careful. Toward the building. Gunfire still echoed. Fighters shouting, guards falling. But this was different. This wasn't about escape. This was about truth. They reached the door. Locked. Jakob leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. Daniel looked around. Then found a metal bar. He slammed it against the lock. Once. Twice. 3 times. Crack. The door swung open. Inside, darkness. Files stacked everywhere. Documents, lists, records, proof. Jakob collapsed to the floor. Daniel rushed to him. "Stay with me," he said. Jakob nodded weakly. "Take them," he whispered. "Take everything you can." Daniel grabbed stacks of papers, stuffed them into a bag. His hands moved fast. Outside, the battle was ending. But inside, time was running out. "Daniel," Jakob said softly. Daniel turned. Jakob was fading. "No," Daniel said quickly. No, stay with me," Jakob smiled. "You ran," he said. Daniel's voice broke. "Because you told me to." Jakob softened. "Good." Tears fell down Daniel's face. "I didn't understand before." Jakob shook his head slightly. "You do now." Silence. Just the distant sounds of the battle. "Will you tell them?" Jakob asked. Daniel nodded immediately. "Everything." Jakob closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them again, one last time. "Then it was worth it." His hand slipped from Daniel's. Still. Daniel froze. The world stopped. Again. But this time, he didn't run. He stood, picked up the documents, and walked out of the building. Outside, the camp was falling. Guards gone. Fires spreading. Prisoners escaping. Marek saw him. "You're alive," he said. Daniel nodded. "Jakob?" Marek asked. Daniel looked back at the building, then at the sky. "He finished it," he said quietly. Marek didn't ask more, because he understood. As the sun began to rise, Daniel stood at the edge of the camp, watching, not as a prisoner, but as a witness. The smoke still rose, but this time, it meant something different. Not death, an ending, and a beginning. Daniel tightened his grip on the documents. "Names, stories, truth. They won't disappear," he whispered, "because now, someone would remember."